up, and we'll see whether that's where the focus is going to lie. But of course, into Champion Select, and as we were talking about, Ari, going to hit the bench immediately, and Xerath going to follow.
Yeah, exactly right, coming through here. A nice ban on the Rengar. MLXG has been playing that a little bit lately, and it just, the vision game, which is so important to Vici, gets countered so much by that champion, like taking it away.
Yeah, and I like the fact that Marta is being banned away. Targeted on this, Viger as well had a fantastic performance in their first game yesterday. So not going to see that one on the Rift today either. And man, Viger's been spending a lot of time on the bench.
Yeah, he certainly has been. That event horizon is just way too strong at the moment. I like the fact that it got spotted out just before we're about to go into the change as well.
Yeah.
Because for a 1-point wonder, being able to max it as well in the support position just allows so much zone control.
It's basically an ultimate level CC in an E, is how I like to explain it. And Cassidy going to hit the bench as well as King thinking about their final ban. It is going to be Carrie's Rumble taken off the board. And we'll see what Vici decide to go for, of course. As far as notable picks that are left up, they include the likes of Janna for Marta, which is definitely handy, and Aurelia on the side of King as well. Sky could pick that one up. Nidalee is available as well. There are a lot of picks here that could be going through. Of course, Azir for Hatong if he wants to grab that.
There is a smorgasbord of picks right now.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about going through the list, and then I'm thinking, oh, hang on. We've got too many.
Yeah, you can just throw the Gnar, Lissandra, everything like that out there as well. This is a very open field to be able to pick up, and they go with the Lissandra.
Yeah, and Lissandra just fantastic. I didn't even notice that. I just assume she's on the bench almost every single time, but not going to be the case, and Vici going to notice far faster than I do and lock that one away immediately. King looking to answer now, and we'll see what they decide to put in their arsenal. Of course, Azir still left up, but is that a dangerous one to sort of blind pick it? Because, of course, Lissandra could be in the top lane.
Yeah, Lissandra could be top lane. It could be, of course, that Xerath. Xerath's been taken away, so maybe not as dangerous. I think that there's still things that deal with Azir, but Xerath is a thing that comes to mind that is a very hard counter. So I don't really mind the fact that they've gone for the blind pick. Assassin's shown in the past that he plays it extremely well. So
yeah.
I think that Azir, on this patch specifically, is still extremely strong and is nearly first pickable.
Yeah, and I really, really love this answering pick here if it does go through. Of course, Corki being hovered for Vasily and taking that away from Wushin after him playing it 3 games in a row, put him onto something completely different. And Marta, he's going to get his Janna here as well.
Yeah, so I would be surprised if Marta didn't pick Janna here, but that is a very strong CC composition coming from Vici right there. And this means if King cannot secure vision and Vici get to pick when they fight, they will destroy this game.
It's going to be very, very scary. Sky does manage to hop over to the Aurelia if he wants it. But you can see that's going to be going into the Gnar matchup. It has worked out quite well in the past. Wushin almost forced to go on this Corki now, though.
Yeah, it looks like he will be going for it. He needs something that can get out of CC, that's for sure. A lot of pressure now on Assassin's Azir to be able to shove the Lissandra and Gnar out at the same time. I think that the commitment to Rek'Sai early and when something like Lee Sin would have been better for disengage will come out to hurt MLXG in this game. But Vasily answers back with a lane bully of his own. There's a lot of AoE coming through right now from Vici, and if they're able to get a jungler, we've seen a little bit of Sejuani. We've seen in other leagues, we've seen that Nidalee's become extremely popular. I don't know if it fits the composition very well, but there is a lot of CC to augment the raw damage that will come out. I just don't know if a long-range poke really fits into the heavy engage they've got going.
Yeah, I was going to say, they've got engage from both of their solo lanes, and now putting some poke in on top of it. It may not necessarily work out, but of course, Dandy has just had phenomenal performances on that champion, starting from very early on in the game, and that might be what they're relying on, getting that snowball happening.
Yeah, and looking to use Nidalee as more of the assassin in this team comp. We see that things like Zed work very well with Lissandra because Lissandra can lock them down and then Zed can really finish them off. So maybe use Nidalee in the same aspect, looking to get into the backline, flank with the Nidalee, wait for the Lissandra to go in, land it, and then Nidalee pounds into a lot of AoE damage. If you look at how much raw power they have without items, this is probably the best team you could put together if you did not want to purchase an item, just because there is so much innate power in each of these kids.
Yeah, and there's also the fact that, you know, Marta has so much displacement as well. So as far as engage, disengage is concerned, they've got so many tools, whereas King, sort of, they just want to go in, don't they?
Yeah, they actually have a very good kite composition coming out. Aurelia suits ducking in and out of fights very well. Equilibrium strike, the more you can get off of that, the better, and you can play around the Hiten style as well. So I think they have a very good kite back comp as well. I think that they... Once again, they can pick people off. They have a lot of upfront burst damage, but I don't think they're all a go-forward composition. I think that's a quite balanced comp out of King.
Okay, so the Thresh as well can be used as far as that disengage portion, using that Flay to push people out.
Yeah, the Flay, the box to control zones, much in the same way that even maybe a Monsoon would be used. So I think that, once again, being able to go through, it is something that will look to be a little bit different, but I think that, yeah, once again, it's a very well-balanced comp coming out of King.
Yeah, and unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, it's not going to be Rookie in the mid lane. That is, in fact, Assassin. Unfortunately, just a little bit of a misname there as Liam and Marta. They are the right people. We've got it.
Yeah, so nailed that one. There's Marta. Got his famous Janna, being able to go in there and really mix it up. And I think that, once again, Vici would be so happy. It looks like there's not even any bans on the side of
exactly.
this game. Vici have got exactly what they wanted in this team comp. Now it comes down to execution, and I really think King are under pressure.
Yeah, and we'll see whether they can do it, but let's get on to the Rift. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, with Vici taking on King for our final matchup of the night. It is, of course, going to be a best of two, and Vici now starting on our blue side. King going to be on the red here, and Dandy setting up some wards.
But I like the response out of King here. Group is 5, invade, try and get an early advantage. There's easy ways to win the game, and that is to just smack people around from level 1. Good deep wards coming in, scouting out a lane swap, trying to get something to come through in their favor. But it's all been scouted out by Vici, so not much going to go down.
Yeah, MLXG going to use that Tremor Sense, though, just to make sure he knows exactly where carry is and keeping everything okay. Of course, it's a confusing ability because as you're underground, you've got so little vision, but you've also got so much more vision.
Exactly right. And I really think it is a fun part of Rek'Sai's kit. It's probably my...
Yeah, it's like, I'm blind, but I'm not blind.
Yeah, it's the thing that I enjoy talking about the most because in certain situations, it is such a good scouting tool. And then in other situations when people don't move, it just baits the absolute heck out of you because you walk into everyone. So it's very, very fun to play around it. See how MLXG goes. He has been playing a lot of Rek'Sai and Rengar. Apparently likes the R champions coming through. And I think that, yeah, it does need to have an early impact.
Yeah, we'll see whether he does make it. Of course, the Void Rush, not going to give him too much extra sort of skirmish ability, but does let him around that map a lot. It does mean that Rek'Sai is still fantastic from the early levels. Level 3 sort of all she really needs in order to be relevant. Hatong just going to be farming out this lane. And as far as Azir versus Lissandra goes, how do you think this one works out?
Yeah, I think this actually goes pretty heavily into Azir's favor just because Lissandra's short range can't really cope with how much persistent damage will come out of Azir as time goes on. I really like what they did there with giving the experience over to the duo lane here, starting it off with Nidalee and then sending her straight to the red buff. It's something that I was expecting teams to experiment much more with how they use their champions that clear extremely well. I'm talking like the Nidalees, the Lee Sins that take very little damage. How they use the first camp to give experience to other lanes to get them ahead. That's pretty much an inherent gank coming through here. That's how much Dandy gave up for that. But he'll be completely fine just because of how proficient Nidalee is at jungling.
And you can see already so much pressure being put on by Vici here on the bottom side. Lamb already down at half health, but the main thing is that Wushin and Lamb are completely zoned away from experience.
Yeah, completely away from experience, and the wave won't hit the turret this time around, so they might not even be able to pick up the CS here because look at all the harass that comes out of Vasily.
Yeah, Wushin does land a really nice phosphorus bomb as Marta just took a little bit of an excursion up the river.
Yeah, and that was very poor play from Vasily because Marta had gone toward the blue buff, which is a smart move here because needs to keep eyes on Rek'Sai because of the early gank potential that comes out of Rek'Sai Thresh. And Vasily, for some reason, roamed up into a creep wave whilst it was happening and took a lot of damage.
Yeah, so we'll see whether he continues to be overly aggressive or whether Vasily's just going to calm down just a little bit in that bottom side. But they are going to actually head back to base, pick up an extra Doran's Blade onto this Graves. They really want to get an early lead.
Yeah, but that confuses me because not really much gain from that, and the wave's in an awkward position now, so they have to continue to push. Maybe recognizing that Rek'Sai would be on that side of the map, so just timing Rek'Sai's movement with their back is the only thing I can really think of. But otherwise, this just plays into the Corki power spike a little bit more.
Meanwhile, we're seeing the top lane, Sky answering back to the poking coming through from Carry. Dandy incredibly low in the jungle somewhere, but he is going to be okay. Actually going to be stealing away the Krug and then heading back to base. Of course, MLXG has already been back. Nice phosphorus bomb from Wushin, just trying to command some respect in this lane after a very difficult early stage. Quick draw going to be used. Vasily actually closing the gap quite nicely, but MLXG is coming out here. Vasily doesn't have that quick draw. There's the flash play. The heal to be used immediately as Vasily going to flash as well. That is double summoner spells down as MLXG has to tunnel away because the Dark Passage was unable to be got. Fat Graves sitting on top of it.
Yeah, but damage already done. Uses both summoner spells to have to get out and is extremely low now. Unless Dandy can really make something work with this gank, Vasily might have just cost himself even more. 14 CS down now. And we've just seen a hover. That is a tier before even a jungle item upgrade out of Dandy. That's a very aggressive build.
Yeah, very aggressive, but unable to be utilized in that aggression for quite some time. Going to put him behind as far as those combat stats are concerned. Of course, as you mentioned, Nidalee going to clear the jungle very, very easily, so he sort of can afford to do it.
Yeah, it certainly can. Nidalee is the best clear jungle on this patch as we see some aggression out of lane.
Yeah, it's actually going to be the spear landing on a lane as well. First blood for Vasily. That was a beautiful threaded needle coming through from Dandy.
Yeah, the reason I was so surprised is I actually thought there was a ward there, but it turns out there wasn't. In the response, MLXG gets a successful gank in the top lane, burns some summoner spells, but that was fantastic movement coming out of Dandy because he timed the expiration of ward either by luck or by very good skill extremely well.
Yeah, and they, I guess, did see Lamb heading around the side there just to put down a ward somewhere. Oh, Glacial Path going to be followed here, but the Q not going to find its mark as Assassin still has the cleanse available, of course. Dandy going to head back into his jungle here as well. And Vici, they do manage to get the result that they committed so hard for here on the bottom side of the map, as Quick Draw is going to be used on top of Wushin here. Buckshot doing a lot of work as well. Vasily now just going to use this shield to continue the onslaught.
Yeah, so finally the lane going the way Vasily would have envisaged it after he got the early experience and then burnt so much to use the early back. He was able to pick up a kill. So after everything, fantastic play out of Vici. Their early game strategy has worked. Now Vasily really needs to commit to bullying this lane. I expect maybe even a Brutalizer to come out just to continue the early pressure. Graves does fantastic work, of course, with his first BF item, but Brutalizer as a standalone just beats BF out in so many different ways and synergizes fantastically with Graves' kit.
The thing is, though, I mean, underneath this turret, Wushin's having a fine old time farming out these waves, actually ahead by 6 CS.
Yeah, but it has meant that he's a couple hundred gold still behind because of how it's gone, and there's a lot of pressure being pushed in like that because it means Nidalee can take Dragon so easy at this point in the game. You're committing resources under turrets and not really securing the map control that Liam is so used to being able to do.
Oh, well, that's actually very true. Keeping Liam down, making sure that he can't get the wards out is something that we really need to take into account because not only is that a strategy that King rely on, but it's also Liam's comfort zone.
Yeah, exactly right. We see, once again, Dandy just getting as much counter jungling done as possible, really utilizing the speed that Nidalee clears the jungle to get around to as many of MLXG's camps as possible. That's the second time he's cleared out those Krugs in the top lane and really is doing a good job of counter jungling, maybe even picking up a red buff for himself.
Yeah, MLXG only level 5, not going to be able to use that Void Rush in order to get around. Dandy going quite low, attacking this red buff, but has Hatong here for at least moral support. As the Krug going to fall down in response. Dandy actually going down very low, but the smite's there, and of course gets a little bit of health back there as well. MLXG not even going to go towards that red buff.
Yeah, he saw that the Hatong had disappeared in the mid lane, and when that happens, you expect a full health jungler to be counter jungling you, not a 200 HP Nidalee. So that's a little bit of a bluff coming out from Dandy there that definitely paid off.
Oh yeah, and MLXG actually pinged out where Dandy was backing incredibly low, but doesn't actually manage to do anything about it. Carry is about to head into Mega Gnar form. Taking a little bit of harass from Sky, who's having a fine old time here in this top side. Of course, Gnar just inherently has a lot of harass and tools in order to bully Aurelia around early on, and only has about a 10 CS advantage.
Yeah, so I guess Aurelia scales very well with levels as well as items. Once it gets to that level 9, can trade extremely well. I like the Sheen first purchase. Just means that you can trade with Equilibrium Strike so well, as we see. Once again, Dandy just making that jungle his own, repetitively jumping in there to try and counter jungle away.
Yeah, it does have the Amp Tome now on top of the rest of his items. That tier continuing to stack and attacks this lane a little bit by throwing in a spear, as Dandy sort of can harass from a very long way away. It's already up to about 270.
That's an extremely quick stacking tier coming through from the jungle. We'll be interested to see if he picks a blue buff up himself or gives it over to Hatong. Of course, Lissandra does extremely well with that blue buff, but the passive means that she can farm without it, but it does go over to Hatong. Dandy just looking to farm out.
Yeah, and of course, I think that your Cougar form abilities actually start stacking that that tier as well. So, of course, don't even need to worry about using mana because, of course, they're all free.
Yeah, it's only the transforms that don't stack. They used to, so you used to just be able to walk around transforming from one to the other.
It's a bit silly.
Yeah.
Jace was also a bit broken in that regard.
Very good at doing that because it gave him the speed up as well. So, but they got rid of that feature, but the abilities still definitely do stack it up.
Yeah, Dandy, though, able to secure his own red buff here as well. MLXG nowhere near the area as Vici continuing to put the pressure on this lane. Hasn't quite managed to catch up in CS, but is closing that gap most definitely. And with that kill, and now with a BF sword, he's looking good in this lane.
Yeah, but in saying that, Sheen, longsword, and nearly a fade is a very good position for Corki to be in at level 6 because pokes extremely well. Vici needs to be in close range, but if he can get some big ones and a sneaky auto attacking every now and again while Vici...
Oh, the Unburrow tries to come through. Dandy actually misses the pounce over the wall. There's the flayback, and Dandy's going to die. The teleport to come through from Sky here as well, as Carrie's about to transform. Perfect timing on the Gnar. Immediately picks up a kill. Sky and MLXG both dead as Vici try and turn this one on. Wushin's going to die at the same time, and Vici picks up that one. So Dandy may have died, but that could have been a bait coming through from Vici.
That's what happens when you expend so much to try and get onto the jungler, and Dragon was completely ignored and chunked everyone in that team fight. Real MVP was Dragon. He went absolutely crazy. Maximum damage possible, and in the end, a fantastic cleanup. Really good layering of CC coming out of Lissandra and Gnar. It's just such a dangerous team fight composition, and if you are king, you never want to fight as 5 in this situation. Unless you have control of terrain. Terrain's so important when you're playing with Azir. You do not want to go anywhere near a Gnar-Lissandra combo between any point of the game.
Yeah, and both of the Trinity Forces weren't finished here as well, so they were in a slump king.
Yeah, exactly right. Weren't able to pick it up. A lot of power coming out of Gnar, especially at this point in the game. Lissandra, now with her 2 cooldown reduction items, is sitting at a very strong point in the game as well. 2-0-1-2. Off to an absolute blinder, and you have to think that now that they're in this position where they can dictate the flow of the dragons, being able to control that timer means that they will be able to pick fights with King whenever they want to.
And Vici actually going for a bit of an Archer build here, wanting to pick up that Bloodthirster first just to really assert dominance in his lane.
Yeah, maybe looking to get ahead in the lane. Sustain is very important when you're playing against someone like Corki that tries to poke you out. But I also think it might be the fact that he recognizes that he needs to burst someone off the map in the Lissandra Gnar combo.
Oh, Sky actually copping a lot of damage from Dandy here. Equilibrium Strike doing some work. The spear has to land, but it doesn't as the flash comes through from Sky.
But he does get another summoner spell, and once again, Mata, just in the top lane, has absolutely no business to be up there, but putting so much inherent pressure on, and Vici might have been caught out, but it looks like he'll escape okay.
Yeah, actually somehow manages to walk away just fine as Wushin tanked up a turret shot, but he's going to be okay. The top lane outer turret is falling incredibly low.
And it looks like they're going to get mid as well. But wow.
Ridiculous plays in the mid lane. Actually, Hatong survives the onslaught.
So that was really nicely played from Assassin there, being able to get the shove back into the jungle and control that area of it. Really, really well played. It actually saved the mid turret as well, it looks like. Might be dove again, though.
Yeah, actually Glacial Path being used by Hatong, sort of gets under the turret and then gets confused about what he wants to do, walks around in circles for a bit and then decides that the turret probably should go down at some point. Assassin now Just going to continue to clear out these minions. Dandy continuing his parade here on the top side of the King jungle. Going to steal away this red buff as well with carry's help. MLXG going to take a Scuttle Crab for it, but you have to say that trade probably not worth.
No, so definitely, wow.
Oh, Assassin gets caught, just exploded, bouncing across this map, and carries Nah is fantastic.
Yeah, it certainly is, and the whole of the Vici team is just walking circles around King. King have absolutely no idea what's going on. The jungle is being repetitively invaded. Turret dives coming through from everywhere. Assassin uses all of his summoner spells and his ultimate to survive the first one in pretty fancy fashion, but second time around, not able to do it. That's all the outer turrets, and Nidalee now in the perfect position. Going to go back, pick up that jungle item. The tier stacking very nicely for this point in the game, and all the outer turrets, they can just go into full siege dive mode.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing as well. I mean, Nidalee, if you need any insurance as far as following through like an early lead is concerned, Nidalee's all you need. Already up to 600 stacks on that tier, going very, very deep on that one. Now has another amplifying tome and that Magus enchantment on the jungle item. Looking fantastic, and you have to think that it's going to be very difficult for King to find their way back in.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I guess it's just such a... It's a much better composition coming out of Vici. As I said, looks like nearly nothing was taken away. There's just too much lockdown CC coming through. Wushin's actually built a CS advantage out of nowhere and has been able to continue to push it after that first back coming through. He's got a Trinity Force now, and maybe this is what they can ride. Sky not able to grab his, but if he can get it before the next dragon, there is a chance that if they get a pick, they can use the consistent damage out of the Trinity Force.
Yeah, MLXG looking for a possibility here on the top side of the map. Is Dandy going to take away the Scuttle Crab very, very quickly, as you can see. This kitty not doing any damage that you can scoff at. Wushin got some eyes on him, but he's going to be A-OK here on the bottom side, able to shove completely towards that inner turret. Carry still hanging out here on the top side. And as you mentioned, 1.5 minutes, that's the timer for Sky to be able to pick up enough gold to grab that Trinity Force.
Yeah, so he's on 300 at the moment. Actually looks like he's not going to be able to get enough gold to be able to go through on it, unless something very seriously goes wrong on Vici's side. That's just not realistic. And looks like the siege continues in the mid lane. Once again, very good rotations coming through from the King Vici lineup, being able to dictate the flow of this game to absolutely fantastic extent.
Yeah, Marta just hanging around, getting some wards down here towards the blue side as connection to China. Just a bit confusing at this stage. Just bear with us just for one moment. But Carry just going to be clearing out this top wave. Of course, throwing a house at minions, pretty effective way of dealing with them, as Vasili's going to continue the push in the bottom side. So still spread out are Vici, just wanting to put the pressure down absolutely everywhere. And if they have the creep waves knocking on the door of King, it just gives Dandy so many opportunities.
Yeah, it certainly does. And they're just waiting on the next spike. They're waiting on the Zhonya's to come through. They're waiting on a second defensive item for the Nah, and then they can just start diving. Until then, all they have to do is force around objectives. They will just pick up uncontested dragon after uncontested dragon, because if you are King, you cannot approach this area right now. There is just too much inherent threat coming from the Vici lineup.
Yeah, and Sky, in this top side, as we mentioned, doesn't have enough to pick up that Trinity Force. It's going to be an underpowered Aurelia coming towards any sort of dragon, as it's just going to be two-manned here, it seems, by Vici.
Yeah, so Vici able to pick that up. Very good vision control over the area. Not going to allow King to get anywhere near it. Not even a steal potential coming out. And once again, this is all they had to do. Control the objectives. They got all the outer turrets very early in the game. And as soon as this comes through, Vici are just going to be, as I said, able to wait on the items they need. They have a very good dive composition. There's actually surprisingly low amount of anti-dive apart from Xerath coming through, and really looks like King, they need to stall out, but I just don't know how they do it.
Yeah, and do they even really want to get to the late game versus this team? Do you think that sort of the scaling potential of an Aurelia and a Azir going to be enough against sort of the hard lockdown of Vici?
Yeah, well, I guess if I was King, and the way I would try and win this game is 1-3-1. So they need to make sure they get to a point where Corki and Azir can clean out the waves, and that they can use the Aurelia to split push and actually use the Rek'Sai to split push. Rek'Sai very undervalued as a split pusher late game, because you can use that ultimate on all those tunnels to get back in and affect the map. So if they can get the game to a point where they're not going to be able to be dove because they have a Zhonya's Hourglass on Assassin, and be able to really make Vici respond to their split push, then they're in a better position. But yeah, as you said, scaling-wise, Vici have a terrific composition and they dive really well. So even that, I don't know if King can execute.
Yeah, we'll see whether Vici can continue control of these lanes as well as they have. I mean, at the moment, 5 pink wards on the map, really able to solidify vision control. Spear's going to come through looking for Liam or Sky there on the top side as Dandy continues to put on his pressure and just goes unseen throughout the enemy jungle.
Yeah, he's just been... That top side of the jungle has belonged to Dandy the whole game. He picked up the Krugs the first 2 times around, and since then has owned every red buff and just really been able to dictate the flow. So, once again, Vici really haven't done much wrong this game. They've not put a foot out of place, and they've punished non-existent errors. Like, King aren't making mistakes. Vici is just really taking it to them.
Yeah, that being said, Wushin with some nice plays against Tatom.
Oh, in the mid lane, what a play coming out.
Yeah, actually, Vasily getting pushed back into the turret there. Collateral damage to come down as the Prey Seeker finds Vasily before he can flash.
Yeah, so Assassin actually insect Vasily back into the turret with that Emperor's Divide and got a lot of damage down. Burnt both Summoner spells, so fantastic play coming out of the mid laner. So still signs of life. Azir, he's a hyper carry in his own right. He's going to be able to get a lot of damage out in these long extended fights, but very squishy, susceptible to getting locked down.
Yeah, Vasily again going to pay a visit here to the mid lane as Lamb looking for a hook but doesn't find it. Dandy actually in a lot of trouble here as he steals away the blue buff, forced to flash away from Wushin, whose burst damage is not to be underestimated.
Yeah, so that's the Trinity Force spike, and it's now come through for Sky as well. So there might be a small window where they can hope to scuffle 1-on-1 and 2v2. I still think a team fight is very dangerous at this point in the game, but signs of life coming out of King. They really are looking to, I guess, wrest as much control over the map back as possible. And Sky's been able to freeze this lane out for a long time. He's actually made up a 20 CS discrepancy that he was behind. And now the lane's slowly starting to push. But he's in a position to be able to get some work done against Carry.
Yeah, actually completely evened everything out as Carry was actually looking to try and put some pressure on towards the mid side, and they want to be team fighting, of course. Vici, they want to be in this position where they can get around the map as a team and catch someone out and then convert that to objectives. But at the moment, King's sort of not giving them that opportunity, and it hasn't been for the last few minutes that Vici have really been able to find anyone.
Yeah, exactly right. Really credit to Sky to be able to build his way back into this lane and, I guess, get back to a point where he can 1v1 carry. It really must have been, I guess, a lot of pressure because, as we said, Dandy's spending so much time up in that jungle. Look at the vision control out of Vici on the top side of the map, just absolutely lining up everywhere they want to go. So he has had to work very hard. Now he's at a point where he needs to utilize the next couple of minutes and try and take an advantage in that top lane.
Yeah, you can see Glacial Shroud already completed here from Sky as well, so that extra 10% cooldown reduction going to be very useful for this Aurelia. Loves to be able to Blade Surge as much as possible. But you have to think that Sky's still fairly far behind. 2-0-2 Nah, of course, with so much more AoE teamfight potential to come through as well, augmented so much by Hatong and the fact that he can lock someone down and Dandy can throw them into the wall. It's like, yep, you can catch the ball for me and I'll peg it back at him.
Yeah, it certainly is, and they have a really good team comp coming through here. As I said, Dandy's the only one that really doesn't 100% fit into the comp, but Dandy's played Nidalee well enough where it almost looks like it's workable. They've played this very slow, though, Vici. They've waited for the next dragon to come up. They have complete control over the area still, so they will be able to probably take another one uncontested. But after that, King will have to start trying to fight for them. But the transformation came through on that Ceres really early for Dandy. He's at a spot where he's very strong on the map, and I guess unless they do something very wrong here, they've still got complete control over the map, but playing it much more controlled than I thought they would be. Yeah,
and Vasily completing the Phantom Dancer and of course, that Zonya's Hourglass to come through from Hatong. He's got the items that he needs to be a monster in these fights. Now probably just wanted to finish off that Death Cap and the Void Staff to make sure he's doing as much damage as possible, but all of those tools that you're looking for as a Lissandra are already there, only to be increased in damage now.
Yeah, exactly right. Maybe even something along the lines of getting in there. I think that Void Staff would be a very good next item just to make sure that you're not going to be mitigated in any way for damage because you haven't gone for those Sword Boots. But this is just complete control from Vici. There's really not much to say about this game because they've just, as I said, controlled every single aspect. They got the 3 outer turrets. They only really lost bot. They roamed very effectively as a team. Now they're controlling Dragon.
We'll see whether Wushin can actually make a difference here because, of course, even on farm, in fact, every single lane is even, if not winning, on the side of King. So that's what can be said about them as far as how this game has continued to progress. All of their members still able to find the farm they're looking for. Assassin takes half of his health from a spear as I'm talking about that. Marta going to find Wushin here as well, as Vasily going to be pushing in very hard on this bottom side. Split pushing as this Graves, and he's got a lot of tower damage with that Phantom Dancer and Bloodthirster combination. Marta going to be able to take away a pink ward, and that inner turret does end up falling down. As Vici now going to change their tone as far as where they want to be putting the pressure on. And King just looked to be slowly losing this game. And do they have to be making moves around this map, making plays happen and finding picks?
Yeah, the problem is, definitely, they need to try and make something happen, find a pick, try and get vision control, but Vici just haven't let them. As I said, they're capitalizing on non-existent mistakes. All that was a slow rotation, and they burnt through a whole turret. As we see, maybe a bit of a catch.
Yeah, actually, MLXG going to be thrown against the wall with the Gnar here. Just going to tunnel his way out, and MLXG is going to be fine. Oh, Spear looks for him, but he doesn't find it. That was very close.
Yeah, and once again, that's a tiny roam coming out. Players now will pressure the top turret. They might even be able to set up a proper siege, although they do have to be careful that Rek'Sai doesn't ult back in here.
Yeah, doesn't actually have that available. The box is going to come through, carry very, very slow under that tower, but they don't even care. They're just going for this inner turret, and Vici will find it more than easily.
Yeah, exactly right. Now they back away. That's the second turret now falling in the tier 2s, and that's a 6,000 gold lead just slowly accrued. Vici in 25 minutes of a game have been in control since minute 1, and it's a clinic. This looks like a far superior tactical team, not even having to use individual skill to win a game.
Yeah, and I mean, we were, discrediting Vasily's ability to sort of push out his advantage early on, really made sure that he got it by picking up early items, by making sure that he just abused the fact that he has the comp. But here's the fight. It's a beautiful Zhonya's to come through, takes the Dark Passage, and I think Assassin, he might even live.
Yeah, so able to walk out there with this 4 health, and now they
calculate. Oh, all of the flashes, that corner of the buckshot, and he doesn't survive. Vasily just going to go over the wall here as well. Another Dark Passage to find MLXG to safety, but is it safety when they're entering the Vici side of the map?
And this is just, as I said, this is a clinic now. Vici are just in that much of control. They can really do no wrong. Burning summoner spells to get around the map. They go 4 for nothing in that exchange, and they're just really, as I said, nearly schooling King at this point.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous coming through from Vici, and this is what you can do when you pick up this comp that just has so much inherent power. They're just abusing it because King, they didn't necessarily even make a misstep that was that bad. They were defending a turret. And, I mean, Assassin has this incredible escape, but still dies because 5 people flash over a red wall.
Yeah, exactly right. So that's just commitment from Vici there. Understanding that they can continue to chase. Little bit of a misplay trying to push down the mid lane turret. They're not in a position to even try and get anything. But as you said, if they don't try and force the pace at this point in the game, they really are just going to lose it very slowly. But that might have just changed it from a very slow loss to quite a quick loss.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And I mean, when a game is going so decisively one way, you have to mix it up. You have to make a change to your playstyle and take a risk. Otherwise, you're just going to lose the game. I mean, I'm thinking of the likes of LMQ from last year over in North America. They would never play as if they're behind, because if you start playing like that, you're just going to lose.
Yeah, exactly right. And I guess more importantly is Dandy, he is for a good Nidalee player, he jumps into a surprising amount of walls. But I guess the problem for King here is that the fact that there is just so much at stake for the next game that if they slowly lose the game, they're just going to, I guess, be demoralized. They're going to not trust themselves to play as a unit the next time around, and it's very important, as you say, to at least roll the dice, give it a crack, try and get in there and make something happen, because there's no point slowly losing a game and getting put through the emotional roller coaster that is League of Legends.
Oh, the emotional roller coaster. No one wants to go through that, as actually the members of King have grouped up here. Of course, Vici, Tong, and Marta pretty quick, and who were talking about making a play. MLXG's gone in here, but just immediately explodes. Tong gets bounced to freedom at this stage, but Sky's made to look like he's squishy here on this Aurelia, and Vici just have so much damage.
And that's a 4v5. Nars nowhere to be seen. Now going in for a flank, they're going in.
Yeah, Tong actually just glacial pathing over there as well. Wushin dies. I have no idea how Hetong's alive. These mid laners seem to have about 15 lives on both sides. But they are going to be able to break the base. The Baroned up minion's going to knock on the door of King. And half an hour into this game, but 14,000 gold is the lead. Vici just destroying the King lineup.
Yeah, make it 15,000 gold. That will be the game as well. Probably a tap of the map, because that is an absolute class. If you want to look how to play controlled League of Legends around your champions, that is exactly how it's done. Liam gets taken off the map. There's a surrender.
Yeah, beautiful play to come through from Vici, and you can see Vici is just, yeah, it's another day in the office here.
Yeah, it certainly is, and that's what it looked like from start to finish. As I said, they got a fantastic team comp, could team fight terrifically. A little bit of a misplay on the overcommitment to Dandy in the Dragon Pit just meant that that game deteriorated rapidly.
Yeah, and we have to remember the fact that their performance against Energy Pacemaker yesterday was very reminiscent of this. I mean, especially that second game lasting about 19 minutes and 40 seconds. Just a brutal display of force coming through from Vici, and when they're playing on the front foot, they look unstoppable.
Yeah, they certainly do, and when they dictate pace around the map and really take it to teams, they just, doesn't look like there's a weakness, because it's Samsung reminiscence at Worlds, because every single lane wins. It's all done cohesively. As a jungler, you have no choice. You can't gank, because as soon as you show yourself, Dandy takes your whole jungle for himself. Just across the board, they're playing terrifically.
Yeah, and it really is sort of the world-class performance that you'd expect coming through from the likes of Dandy and Mata, of course, formerly from the World Championship team, Samsung Light.
Yeah, exactly right. So I guess really overall, very balanced lineup once again from Vici. Everyone doing their job, and there's not really much more to say about that game except for the fact that King just got outclassed.
Yeah, and we'll see whether King can maybe adjust their champion select times, because, of course, that draft just did not seem to work in response to the massive amount of CC to come through from Vici. But let's hop into the next game and see whether King can turn it around, because it's been a night of upsets. We'll see whether it can happen again.